Thank you, Fernando. So we can go on with the second demo for the wallet. That is a demo about the integration of the aftermarket wallet with the verifiable credential services. And this is part of the integration of the wallet with the identity and access management of free market system. And I leave the floor to Rupert Gobber that will show us this demo.
Okay, thank you, Alessandro. Okay, I'm going to show you the flow we have currently to create a verifiable credential and store it in the software wallet. So initially, the user is redirected to a page of the verifiable credential service that render an HTML page that ask the wallet to the identity. So then the wallet ask the user as Fernando showed us before to communicate to select the identity. The identity is returns back to um, to the to the to the to the page to the HTML page. So then it is possible to create a verifiable credential for that DID. The credential goes back to the HTML page that perform a post to the wallet to create the credential. Then the user has to accept the credential, and then the credential is stored in the in the wallet. So to create a credential, we have a new API. The previous API related to UPort as marked as deprecated. So this is the API. We can put we can communicate the credential in the URL by encoding it, for example, in this way. So suppose this is the credential we want to create, that are the attributes. So we can encode the credential in this way to pass in the URL. So that this API will produce an HTML page that we can render in such a way. Maybe I can do. Okay. So the first thing is asking the wallet to communicate the identity. So I am selecting my identity. So the credential will be generated and sent back to the wallet. So the wallet in the wallet will appear another notification to that ask the user to accept the credential. This is the claim said before. We can accept the credential, and then we have a feedback that the credential is created. This is the ID, and we can see the ID here. So this is the flow. We have just now to create a credential. And that's all for me. I can give the floor to Alessandro, I think.
Okay, thanks, Rupert.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, then we can move to the demo about the sovereign identity access management system. I share my screen. Okay, so this is related to, sorry, I change my screen. This is related to self-sovereign identity and access management and the wallet part of the trust security and privacy system. And in this case, data marketplace could interact with the identity access management system to register client and user, which are administrative client and user of the data marketplace, and then provide a service-centric authentication in order to authenticate his client and users as uh, data marketplace client and user, and operate as data marketplace in towards free market system, and then could register and authenticate the data consumer or provider with user-centric authentication, so with the self-sovereign identity, authenticate the end users with interacting with the iFree Market wallet, and provide the credential for register the end user as a data consumer data provider, and then log in the end user and provide and receive the access token to call the backplane API as users to interact with the backplane API on behalf of the user. Okay, so the services are related to service-centric authentication, and the data marketplace could register and authenticate client, his own client, and also register and authenticate his own administrative users, and then could register and authenticate users and users with the user-centric authentication and through the iFree Market wallet. The identity access management system is based on Keycloak, that is an open source OpenID Connect identity access management system, and the Keycloak is integrated with the OpenID provider of i3 Market based on self-sovereign identity, which is configured as a federated identity provider in the Keycloak instance. And so we will see that during the user-centric authentication, Keycloak will redirect the user to our iFree Market provider, and we will authenticate the user with self-sovereign identity. And then we also provide the services for issuing verifiable credential that will be verified during the login process, because only user with a verifiable credential attesting that the user is an iFree Market consumer or provider could log in our system and obtain an access token. So to demonstrate these functionalities, we use Postman, and we first of all we can obtain, operating as a data marketplace, we can obtain an admin access token, calling the token endpoint of Keycloak, of the i3 Mark III configured in Keycloak, and with the credential of an administrative client. Okay, so we receive an access token with which we can register user. We can register a new user that is a data marketplace user. Oh, sorry. Okay, it is created, and we can also get this new user information. Oh, sorry. Okay. And then we can register client, other client that could interact with our system. Okay, it is created. And so, for example, we can use this client to, we can provide a verifiable credential for the user, and sorry, calling the URL of the verifiable credential API to retrieve the ID. Okay, maybe this is better to do on a browser. This call and will show a QR code that we can scan with the Uport application. Sorry, I cannot show you the Uport, but I'm scanning the QR code. Okay. I log in with the Uport application, and then the service redirect to the callback URL we provided, providing the ID of the user. So we can call the WC credential endpoint with the ID of the user. Sorry. Okay. And we can show the QR code with the verifiable credential, and scanning this QR code with the Uport application Okay, we receive the verifiable credential of provider, and accepting this verifiable credential. Sorry, I cannot show this part. We can store the credential provider in UPort application. So this is the flow of user registration as data provider, for example, in this case, using the UPort mobile app, and it is the same that Rupert showed before, but interacting with the iFree Market wallet. So once the end user received the credential, the verifiable credential with his role, could log in with our provider, with our identity and access management system, and so always using a Postman, we call the authorization endpoint of one of the identity node of iFree Market network, and so we can initiate an authorization code flow process to authenticate the user, which is an OpenID standard flow, and so we contact Keycloak. Keycloak show us a login page in which the user could log in with the service-centric authentication, providing username and password, or using iFree Market. Sorry, I already did before the authentication. Just a moment. I have to delete the user from Cook, I suppose. Or the problem is that no, the problem is that I already authenticate okay, Keycloak should show the QR code to authenticate and receive the DID of the wallet, but I did this before, so this part of the authentication process is already done. Maybe I don't know, maybe closing Postman. Sorry, maybe I can try to close Postman and reopen to. Okay, so the client initiate an authentication code flow. Keycloak show the login page and the federated iFree Market provider. Okay, so authenticated with iFree Market. Keycloak show the QR code that we can scan with the Uport mobile app. So, okay. The Uport mobile app asked me to share the provider requested by the client in the scopes. And if I consent to provide this credential, okay, the flow go on and our OpenID provider provide the user distributed identifier to Keycloak. And so maybe user could add some information, or it could be simply registering the anonymously in the iFree Market management system. Okay, so this is an access token containing claims about the user. So we have the issuer of the JSON Web Token, that is the identity one node of iFree Market Network. And we have information about the user, is the ID, and we attested that the user is a consumer. So this access token could be used by the client to retrieve information about the user and also to call protected resource that accept token from identity, iFree Market identity provider, for example, Backplane API or Data Access API. Okay, this is all for the demo about self-sovereign identity access management system. So we can move to the demo about Smart Contact Manager. So I leave the floor to Suzanne.